the three main ones Anton talks about.
In
Now,
the Satanic Bible.
Zena, these are the three put forth in the Satanic Bible. Describe them. Destruction ritual. What is a destruction ritual?
Well, we believe in vengeance. We don't believe in turning the other cheek. You keep turning the other cheek and you run out of cheeks. We feel that if you are wronged in some way, that you take it out with the person responsible, whether that's directly or indirectly, whether that's actually going to the person and addressing the problem or the issue specifically, or whether it's working it out through ritual.
May I ask, before you go on, have you never had an experience in your life, I certainly have, where I felt I was wronged by someone else, only as I matured later in life to discover, in fact, that in that circumstance I was the one who was wrong, and it was my own selfish ego that placed upon it the imprimatur of saying I was wrong.
We have.
So that, but what I'm saying is, if you claim the right to get even with anyone at any time, what if you're wrong? What if you do a destruction ritual?
Well, how do you know that you were wrong?
And what's wrong with your selfish ego? I would think your selfish ego is a healthier gauge of reality than some moral system found in
I would think it's very blinding, because in fact,
by instinct, how could that be blinding?
We're getting back to our animal natures. We are beasts, and we decide from gut instinct whether we have been wronged or not.
Excuse me, you've never done, Zena, you've never done anything wrong and thought you were right?
Let's back up even further. Maybe if what you were experiencing was some youthful ego thing that you think you were wrong, what about infants that are passed from one relative to another and they're fine, and they get to one person and they just start screaming, and there's something there that's wrong, and an infant can sense it. Is that infant reacting wrong? Is that a wrong reaction? Well, I would say that on a much more simplistic level, that is the way we react. If we instinctively feel that something's not right, we have to go by gut intuition.
What if you're wrong? What if you're wrong?
What is wrong and right? And in our case, we are making up our reality. We decide what's right and wrong. You are letting the Bible or Jesus Christ or whatever God may be
even
decide.
Common sense. I mean, even leaving God out of it to suggest that you can make up your own reality. My goodness, that's what they did in Tiananmen Square. That's what they did in Germany in 1933. I mean,
and that's what they're doing in America in
These are examples of people who created their own reality.
Everyone creates their own reality. The thing is, you speak for a consensus of reality which is acceptable. We speak for one which at this point in history is not acceptable. Well, so it's just a question of who manipulates the media, who has the most money to put their reality forth.
Would you pardon me saying that I find a world in which your ability to conjure your own reality as you perceive it to be a very frightening world for people like me, because you see, I'm guided by some codified rules that tell me what is right and wrong. In your world, I'm not so sure I would feel very safe.
Well,
you would see that's your problem. You have, in the satanic world of the future, Christian churches will be allowed to continue because they pose no threat to us. We don't need Christianity. Christianity needs us.
Sure.
So we'll let it.
Sure. Tell that to the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto. Why, we're not going to put you in gas ovens. We're not going to kill you. We just want you to wear an armband.
No, I'm not saying that.
I mean, we just want you...
No. I'm not saying I'm a humanitarian. Don't try to whitewash me.
Hitler created a reality. Was it evil?
Hitler was a masterful black magician. Of course, he created a reality. Was it evil? I'm telling you that I don't believe in good and evil, and nor can anyone decide what is good and evil. It's all based on historical and cultural values. In my point of view, the Christian religion is evil, in quotes, because it is negative.
Nicholas, I'm not a Jewish survivor of Buchenwald sitting here with a number tattooed on my arm. If I were, well, frankly, I'd be incensed. I'd be outraged that you suggest...
Well, they are incensed and outraged. They're incensed and outraged.
You're not willing
every
to
day.
say Hitler was evil.
Absolutely not, because I'm not
What-
going to
what
bow down to
purpose
your
would
level
that
of
serve?
good and evil. That's so primitive.
Pardon?
I'm telling the
What
human
purpose would
race.
that serve? You want us to give you these lines.
I'm
that have
telling you,
been
you
fed
have to decide
us.
for yourself.
No,
If
no,
you-
no,
If
no.
you
I'm asking. No,
examine
no. I'm
history-
asking for parrots.
You want rules.
No, you do.
You want rules.
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you just a fundamental question, a social colloquy in regards to how human beings treat one another.
100 years ago, Napoleon was considered the devil incarnate, the most evil person who ever lived. Now he's forgotten. Everything changes with cultural tides. Morals change with the weather.
Well,
You
now-
can't say something is good or evil. You can only look at human behavior from a realistic perspective.
Well,
See,
yes,
if you
yes.
really want to look at what is evil, sitting right there is probably the prescription for
The
more
Bible?
evil.
The Holy
That's
Bible,
right,
and
has
if you can
caused
tell me
more
this is untrue,
bloodshed
tell me.
throughout history.
Exactly.
In the name of
More people have
Christianity.
died because of the Christian church in the past 2,000 years of its dominance.
Was the Spanish Inquisition
Well,
evil?
hang on. You got
I'm not
off
saying
Hitler
there's-
here. You sidestepped Hitler.
No, let's talk
Oh,
about
okay.
Hitler.
Let's
Whatever
talk,
you want to talk about.
We'll talk about this in a second.
Let's talk about the Bible. Let's
Fine,
talk
let's-
about
let's-
Hitler. Let's
let-
talk
let's-
about everything.
I don't want to misquote you. In
but also
fairness
I
to
think
you,
it's interesting. Why do we focus so much on Hitler?
Why are you so fascinated with sex and
I think
Hitler?
this is
and-
very
I'm not
interesting.
fascinated with
But
sex,
these
and
are
I'm
the
not
things that you-
fascinated with Hitler. No, I'm not.
Because
sir.
you keep bringing up
No,
the
no, no, no,
Holocaust
no, no,
and
no.
the
See, these wouldn't
survival.
be-
I'm
These
sorry,
are-
it's honest, and you're a brilliant man, and even you know that.
What do you want to get
What
at
I'm
then?
asking
What's the
you-
issue of
well,
our debate?
the issue is, and I'm wanting to be fair to you. I'm not wanting to put words in your mouth or misquote you. You're saying, are you then saying that what Hitler did to 6 million Jews cannot be morally quantified and called evil? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely not, nor can any act of any human being or animal be judged good or evil. There is
Do you
no
agree
such
with that,
thing as
Gina?
good or
Yes,
evil.
I agree with that, because if you look at every war, no matter whether it was the Third Reich or whether it was the Spanish Inquisition or any war, any movement has always caused bloodshed.
Whoever won
There
the
is
war
always-
decided what evil was.
And then the victors wrote history. So you always have to keep that in mind.
If King George had won the American Revolution, George Washington would be remembered as one of the great evil tyrants of all time. History decides what is good and evil.
now-
So
what
if
we're
Hitler had
seeing-
won?
If Hitler had won, obviously, your school books would say Hitler was good, everything else is evil. It's so relative that why can't the
there's a
human
difference.
race
There's a difference
step
here.
out of this
There's 6
primitive
million
argument of good and evil?
6 million corpses.
What about Stalin
What about
and 10
Stalin
million
and 10
Polish?
million?
Let's talk about-
What
let's
about
talk
the
about it.
Ukrainians?
Sure.
Why is there
Let's
only
talk about
one?
the Ukrainians.
Why is there only one Holocaust, one evil?
Was Stalin?
What about in El
was
Salvador? There are
was
millions of people
Stalin's
dying right now.
Slaughtering of the Ukrainians through famine a malicious act of evil?
There's no such thing as evil. It was a typical act of a human being. And if you want to look at human history from the day that we came from the primordial swamp that creation began in, what you're calling evil is part of human nature.
That's part of evolution also.
How many? Now,
Well,
what about the millions of people who were killed in Europe, accused of being witches, children and women burnt at the stake, while crowds of good, pious Christians gathered around and watched them burn for a
It was
Sunday
evil.
celebration?
I will call that evil.
I won't call it evil. I'll say
I
it's
will
human
call it
nature.
evil. I will call it evil, and I will take
Well,
it a
then-
step further to say that it was philosophically the antithesis and totally inconsistent with what the Bible teaches.
Well, maybe the problem is...
Now, hang on. What Nazism did to the Jews was philosophically consistent with the occult Aryan ideas of Hitler. So what I'm saying is...
Well, that's what you're
witches-
deciding, because you're a Christian in 1989. The Christian church rulership in the 1600s would think you were a heretic for saying such things. So all I'm telling you is morality is a relative issue, and nobody can decide what is good and evil.
Is murder relative?
Murder is absolutely relative. When I say we, I mean the American government sent our troops to Vietnam to kill people. Was it evil? Were those good murderers? Are there good murderers if they're wearing a soldier's uniform and bad murderers if they're not?
Would you say that to the mother of Sharon Tate?
Yes, I would say that to
You
the mother
would?
of Sharon Tate. In fact,
Do you want to let Charlie Manson out of prison?
that's a whole other issue.
Do you?
Charles
Do you think
Manson,
he deserves to be let out of prison?
Charles Manson, for one thing, I don't believe is guilty of the crimes he's been accused of. But that's a whole other issue.
You're kidding.
Well, how much do you really know
How much
about
do you know
all of
about
these
Charles
things that you're
Manson? How
talking
much
about?
do you know about Hitler?
Well,
How much do you know about
now wait a
anything?
minute. Zena, Charlie has pretty well made his philosophy known. I mean, he's spoken clearly and openly, and there's no denial on his part of his role in the Tate LaBianca murders. That he sent those people in. Are you saying that Charlie Manson is a rational mind? Are you saying this man is not a murderous psychotic? Is that what you're saying?
By your point of view, of course not.
Zena, I don't find it terribly surprising that there should be some analogies between your father and people like Rasputin. It seems pretty reasonable to me in terms of the ideology that he set forth. It really is a get yours first, don't look out for the other guy, Machiavellian kind of philosophy.
Well, that's right. But also you were referring to other people in history that I was saying you have to consider both sides of every story.
There's another side to Hitler?
Do you think there's only one side to anything?
Guy killed 6 million people.
And that's all you know? And that's all you have to
No,
know?
I know much more about Hitler than that, but in terms of determining his moral place in history, I don't have any problem.
Now, we're
Who
in the same
determines the moral
position.
place? Who determines it? Who has the right to determine what is good and evil?
Well, of course, I would respond from the standpoint of the Christian ethic, but even a humanist sitting in this chair.
I don't like humanists any more than Christians.
You don't
because
like humanists either?
Humanists, you have to understand this. Once and for all, Christians must know Satanism is not humanism. Humanism is based on Christian ethics and ideas. It just doesn't have Christ. But it has the same appalling ideas about equality, love for everybody, indiscriminate love for all living things, and we oppose those ideas.
Altruism, humanitarianism, all that
Humanism
type
and
of stuff.
Christianity are in bed together. They're the same thing.
Well,
no
the
difference.
humanists might not appreciate that, but I
Of
hear
course
where
they
you're coming
wouldn't.
from.
Of course
Neither
they
would
wouldn't.
a white witch or
And
a
as far
neo-pagan
as I'm concerned, there's Satanism and then there's other people.
Yeah, your father in the satanic rituals really puts out some zingers at the witches who want to be white witches. He says there really is no such thing. A witch is a witch is a witch.
That's right. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. Now there's where I do agree with your father. Yes.
I mean,
I think
throughout
you would
history-
find that you do agree on a lot of principles with the satanic philosophy, if you clearly understood and looked at it. We are saying that the act
Well, I
of
don't know if I'd carry that
in
far.
the sense that the act of manipulating and using the will and using ritual to create change is, by any definition, satanic. And anyone who does that is at least an ipso facto Satanist. So these
Well,
witches that say they're good witches, white witches, nice witches, are as hypocritical as a Christian to me.
Your father also says in the Satanic Witch, quote, of psychics who say, God gave me the gift. These people are playing the devil's game, but refusing to use the devil's name.
That's right. Wouldn't you